Well, our first position is that the case ought to be dismissed because the levy board wants to take control over how permits are operate in southeast Louisiana, and we think that's something that conflicts with federal law, and therefore the case should be dismissed.
And then it seemed to be another issue as to what supposed damage was caused by each company represented in the lawsuit as well. How sticky of an issue is that?
Well, I just think it's important for any defendant to know what they're accused of doing and what the claims are in terms of how each defendant caused harm.
Act 544, what bearing do you think it has on this lawsuit?
Well, I think it's, we're going to have to see. I didn't argue that motion, but I mean, obviously the legislature's spoken in terms of how it feels about this case, and it's just going to have to work its way through the process.
Generally speaking, Bob, why do you think she should dismiss this lawsuit?
She should dismiss this lawsuit because the levy board wants to take over management of the permits by which oil and gas companies operate in southeast Louisiana, and that's against federal law, and that's what we oppose.
And what do you say to those who say that damage has been done and somebody should be held responsible?
Well, if somebody has caused harm, I mean, there's a process by which they can be held accountable. The Army Corps of Engineers can bring a civil suit, it can bring criminal action. I mean, there's a process in place, and we think that's what ought to control.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark Schlesting with the Times-Picayune. If indeed the Corps were to turn around today and file citizen lawsuit under the Clean Water Act, under Rivers and Harbor Act, to try to get them enforced, to get the Corps of Engineers to enforce the permits, would that be something that you guys would be amenable to having happen? I'm sure you'd still fight.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, it's
individual
not so
suits.
much a question we would fight. I mean, the permits are in place. If they've been violated and someone thinks in a position to challenge that, wants to bring that forward, then of course we want to hear what they have to say. Our objection here is that the levy board wants to undertake refilling and revegetating all the canals that any defendant has had anything to do with, and that directly conflicts with the federal permitting law and the regulatory scheme that Congress put in place, and that's what we oppose.
Okay. And is there any way of getting to some sort of bargaining table on some of these issues? Is there some way for the industry to sit down with the levy authority and try to work out some of these?
I think every oil and gas company is interested in sitting down and talking about whatever concerns residents in this area. But if you're expecting this case to be resolved by settlement, I think that's mistaken.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir.
All right.